Hello and welcome to Team Fortress TV. I sure wish Suyooo gave me time to finish sitting down in my seat before he put us live. You're here with us for the ETF2L Grand Final Playoffs. We're going to start with the semi-final against LBC and BK. I am joined by Sideshow. Kaidus will be here in a bit when he's finished up warming BK. Suyooo is on the stream. You're here. Exciting news. Sideshow, are you here too? Oh, it's almost a party.
Oh, well, we got one and lost another. It's okay.
The sub in and out. Give me a second while my game just had the worst time of its life. Let's talk a little bit then. You've just come from warming up BK, haven't you, Kaidus?
I have, but what are we here for? I don't even know.
I've just been over it. For semi-finals. LBC versus BK. Yeah.
But then the final's coming after, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought we'd let people know in case, they watch the game and then vanish and miss the big event.
No one wants to watch the final. Everyone knows the best games happen in the semi-finals, and the finals are always a flop. You don't see that 52. So we're going to be going to this first best of three before a second best of three. Obviously, the winner of this one plays what are they called now?
The Ubersexuals.
Yeah.
I think maybe for the final we should allow them to have their own name, even if it is a disgrace to the name of Dunk.
It was Dunk's birthday yesterday. Is this how we
really?
want to? Yeah, it was Dunk's birthday yesterday. Is this how we want to pay respects to him on his birthday day after?
We'll just consider it birthday beats.
Beating his ego. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that while I finish sitting down?
Okay, well, the maps for this match, in case you didn't catch it on the grapevine, are going to be Viaduct and Granary with a Badlands decider. We warmed BK up, we being a random shit mix I threw together. What can I tell you about that? Well, they asked us to run Sniper on Viaduct, specifically.
Did you have a good sniper?
We had Stark, but he wasn't hitting anything, and I had 150 ping, so the whole, the whole strat you do with the Sniper these days is have two scouts, which we tried, but then it left us with, you have your two scouts and a Sniper, and then your demo taking all the heals, but we had a 150 ping demo taking the heals, and a Sniper that was not hitting anything, so they kind of rolled over us, but that's obviously what they're expecting from the French. They're expecting Flippy on Sniper, and maybe Tech to go, switching between Soldier and Scout, which is pretty much all the rave these days. Like, ever since Immunity started doing this strat, it seems like everyone's doing it. I mean, main call, Ubersexuals has done it most of the season, and yeah, it's kind of the Viaduct metagame has been kind of this season all about how you counter this strat. Obviously, having the two Scouts, it gives you a lot more mobility, and if you have a strong demo man, it gives you, obviously more resources to pile into your demo. If you have two Scouts that can maneuver around the map, dodge damage, and generally not take up as much heals as a pocket soldier would. And also, because obviously the common way of countering a sniper is you just literally bomb your soldiers. So having two Scouts to deny the soldiers lets your sniper be more effective. So I think that's kind of the style of game we might be seeing on Viaduct this evening.
When they played you, they didn't play, like Zebasai didn't try his hand at Sniper or Zappis or anything, they just kind of,
no.
trying to go like for like, they just tried to play more aggro.
Yeah, they might have had a Sniper a bit, but I don't recall, definitely not a Sniper-centric play from them. I remember, because I've obviously played with these guys last season in Insomniac, and they're running some of the same strats, and I remember when we played Immunity, who were running this strat, and our counter strat was, and I quote, full retard mode. Like, we played them many, many times on Viaduct, and we got crushed all but one time, and it was the very last time we played them on Viaduct. Luckily, in I-52, we were able to ban Viaduct, so we didn't have to play it, but we figured out a way to play against this two-scout sniper strat, and it was literally full retard. You just go, and you go, and you go. And it seems to work. Can't tell you why. I'm supposed to be here for insight. I don't know, but it just does. It's the closest we came anyway.
Do you feel like Exxon has enough damage output and ability on Demoman to really support that kind of style?
Yes and no. I mean, there's less opportunities to kind of go and do dumb stuff. Like, I find even as a demo myself who likes to go and jump around a lot on Viaduct, you just kind of... You're more content, as long as you just appreciate when you have the point, you're more content just to chill. But I mean, I haven't actually seen, I won't lie, I haven't actually seen the French play this map this season, so I'm kind of going on what I've heard. I mean, Exxon isn't really the pockety type of demo, so I think if Tech is going to be running this strat where he runs Scout, I think it may be the case that we see him switching on and off of it, rather than like Ips might do where Ips is playing Scout for the full duration. But I'm not seen too much of LBC on Viaduct, so I'm going to go with my guess there.
Yeah, I haven't really seen them play Viaduct either, but I can imagine that we'll be seeing a sniper being run full time from them because they just have these great snipers on their team, especially Flippy, and it would be a waste really for them not to use it, for them not to pull out this strategy. So it'll be interesting to see how BK manage to counter that. What do you think about them attempting some kind of counter snipe? Do you think Zappis or Zebasai would be able to counter snipe if it came to it?
I think they have to be realistic. I mean, Zebo and Zappis can both snipe, and on their day they're very good, but they offer like nowhere near the consistency of Flippy and Tech, even, to be honest. Like, they're both just so consistent, hitting like a lot more than Zebo and Zappis do over the course of a season. But I mean, on their day, these guys can be just as good, and that's kind of how it goes. So I think maybe, I don't know. They've been playing TF2 a lot today, so by now they probably have some idea of where they are today in terms of their aim and what's on and what's off. So it's possible, but like I say, they didn't run sniper against us. Maybe once, maybe twice. I don't recall a sniper, but I won't say for a fact they didn't. But they're definitely more focused on countering the other sniper without a sniper, because I think they're at least prepared for the fact that they're going to get completely out-sniped. But I mean, in the game, when you're playing and you're trying to win, like, if it doesn't work, then sometimes you just end up cycling through, like, the generic TF2 playbook. You try a mid, it fails. You try a push, it fails. You just bring out something else, and you just kind of rotate these strats, like, as a worst case scenario. So we'll have to see. Basically, is the very, very short way of putting what was a long-winded
insight. Well, that's what you're here for, Kaidus. Yeah. You're here for the insight, and we are grateful for your uncountable amount of game sense that you bring to this, because I am a wet lettuce and have absolutely no ability to think for myself. So that's always appreciated. So after Viaduct, of course, we are then going to be going on to Granary, I believe. What do you think about the matchup on that map?
I think it's going to be very interesting, actually, because I mean, we've seen in the past, like, everyone knows for a start, Rib is one of the strongest airmen on Granary. Like, definitely, like, if you're comparing Rib to Exxon, like, I think that's the clearest, like, difference in that matchup, of the matchups of that match. Like, Rib is going to go to town on Exxon on the mids, basically. But we've seen in the past from this team, and particularly Exxon, the way they approach Granary mid when it's not working is just to jump Exxon. And I mean, I've seen him make this work against Miralin. So when you consider that he's going to be jumping Knutsson on a lot of these mids, most likely, he's probably going to end up, this fight's probably going to end up really dirty. Like, the medics are going to die, and it's going to be a really, really dirty fight, because I can't see Exxon even bothering to attempt to take on Rib, like, head-to-head. I mean, he can play the slow game from ramp room, but it's not really Exxon's style. Like, I mean, you see Demoman, like, in the past, historically, like Numlocked, who they're really slow on mid, and Rib is there, sticking everything and whatever. But Numlocked, and, like, with a really cohesive team unit, he would play it really slow from ramp room and, make it work, come in with a full buff rather than trying to contest early. But this isn't really Exxon's style. Like, we've seen them a lot in the past just do this strat that dates back to, like, 2008. It was happening in, like, Division 3. I think that's where I first saw it. Team Blame were doing it with, like, Anti and Wildcard and these guys. It's the very first time I saw this strat, and it was really effective. So I don't know, it's kind of all going to be about how much Exxon does with the jump, because I mean, we saw some mids where he's done it, where he just jumps in and kills the medic and then pipes the demo or something like this, and as long as his team go in after that, the job's kind of done. But we also see the mids where he jumps in and just dies. So I think these Granary mids are going to be kind of insane. Yeah,
we've got the stats up now as well, thanks to Gentleman John, as always. Sideshow, I believe you have the link. It should be on stream as well. There's not really a lot in it from what I can see in straight up Rib versus Exxon. Rib takes more heals, but damage per minute. Exxon slightly higher, but then obviously we talked about it a bit before, just Exxon's almost inconsistencies. It really depends what kind of day Exxon is having. Like, if you look at... Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, historically, I didn't want to butt in, I just want to quickly say, historically, he shows up when it matters. Like, he is very inconsistent, but I don't really remember a playoff game or a big game where he didn't really show the better side of himself. I'm not saying it's going to happen for a fact, but if I was going to bet on Exxon's performance today, I'd say big, just on, like, history.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure how much that will come into play in Viaduct. Like you said, Exxon might be on a bit more of a tight leash with the 2 scout sniper combo.
He will jump, like, if they win, like, he's going to be this guy jumping and chasing the med, or if the fight goes bad, he's going to jump and just go for the med. Like, he's going to do this whenever, like I was saying earlier, like, he kind of, like, he does play tighter, and he does kind of stick more around the med, but he's not one of these demo men that's going to fall back like Banny and stay alive. He's going to go, like, when the fight gets dirty, and they're losing the point, or they're losing the fight, he doesn't care about, like, a 4-second respawn time. He's going to go, he's going to jump in the med. I remember seeing him, I can't remember who he was playing, but I remember seeing him play this map once, and I couldn't tell you how many med picks he got, but it was, like, a game-changing amount.
Okay, yeah, you can see it a bit on the graphs as well at the bottom. You can just see Exxon is just a little bit more up and down than the others in terms of KD, I guess particularly is the one that defines whether these bombs are going well or not. Should we move on to some other stats, some other matchups? I think obviously Roma's going to be a big thing in this game. Obviously T-Mac for quintessential Roma, Zappis new on Roma this season. As we get the stats up, where do you guys fall on? Where do you think that battle's going to go?
I feel like T-Mac has a pretty big advantage there. Zappis absolutely has picked up the essentials of Roma and done it very well, but I still feel like T-Mac, when he plays in a French team, that he can really communicate with well and sync things up and time it. He's very good. He's one of their best players in my opinion, and even though he does have a tendency to slightly overextend sometimes and give the enemy team an easy pick, he does make a lot of room and a lot of players for his team. And on something like Viaduct, if he can get behind them and harass them from behind to try and slow them down, give Flippy a lot of room to snipe, I think it could be pretty devastating. If you have a look at the stats as well, he has slightly higher average kills, a better KD, KAD, slightly better DPM as well. Getting healed slightly more, the air shots, 4 compared to 3 average. So I think I'm well-founded in that kind of matchup there. But I certainly don't think that Zappis is letting down his team in any way. And he'll probably be one of their key players if they're going to be countering Flippy on Sniper. So he'll really have to pull it out big on this matchup, I think.
T-Mac's definitely the more seasoned Roma. I mean, with Zappis, it's kind of like you see some games where he's really hot and some games where he's really cold. And I don't think it's the case that he's not playing well on these days. But I think because it's his first season on Roma, he's kind of, I don't want to say a one-trick pony, but not a whole lot more than that at the moment. Like, I think he has a lot of room to develop, but I think he's quite limited in what his play style is. It's kind of like jump, make space for the demo. It's kind of a bit like Knutsson, but with a bit more skill involved. Like the way he played last season. Like, if what he's doing is not working, he doesn't really have a whole lot of like plan Bs. I mean, obviously he can attempt them, but I don't think he's so comfortable with like completely alternating the way he approaches mid fights and team fights and this sort of thing. But in saying that, while this isn't really based on anything I've seen, I would, a team he would perform better against would be LBC. Just because both teams say like they always have close games to each other, and like because they're both just DM style. Like, I think Zappis is the kind of Roma that would be quite easy to shut down by a team like Ubersexuals. Maybe easy is too strong a word, but I think this is a game where Zappis can thrive, maybe compared to other games.
Yeah, I can imagine this whole map in general is going to be very chaotic, not just because it's Viaduct, but because the way both teams play, they're just going to open it up for each other, really. And especially with, I think both teams really have sort of a strength in their scouts, sort of Zebasai, Tech, Flippy. I suppose Flippy might be on Sniper, but you know what I mean. Like, it's really the flank is and the strength of these teams, really. And it's probably going to be really open and really chaotic. So kaidus will probably get to say about 1.5 things.
Yep, that suits me just fine.
Yeah, I also think though that at the end of this map, if we kind of look back over T-Mac and Zappis and how their performance has been, we'll have to keep in mind the fact that Zappis is going to be facing up. He's going to have a huge job. He's has to constantly throw himself in there to try and make some space and take out the threat of Flippy on Sniper, whilst also fighting against 2 scouts. And T-Mac, we can assume, is only going to be fighting against a kind of a default cookie cutter lineup. He doesn't have to have that added pressure of taking down the Sniper and being kind of more predictable. He's got more flexibility in how he can play on a map like Viaduct, I think.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because AMS is going to be helping him a lot. I mean, in the game we just played with them, It took us about 3 mids, to be fair, to even contest, because we were just like, they told us to run a sniper, so we ran a sniper, but we didn't really have a plan for it, so we just kind of YOLO'd into mid, and we just got absolutely crushed by like 2 soldiers with scouts coming behind them, and this kind of thing. So AMS will be kind of supporting Zappis, but it's kind of going to open the door for TMAC, because there's going to be they're going to be running 2 soldiers, so there's not going to be 2 scouts defending the medic, which is what you often see on this map. It's going to be two soldiers and at least 1 scout going forward, and like Rib and Happy just with Knutsson. So I think Knutsson's going to die a lot, basically, and not because he's bad, but just because the door is going to be open for TMAC, who is absolutely notorious for getting like these med picks, like, and getting them regularly, like where sometimes other roamers wouldn't. I think it's going to be about whether like the aggression from BK can do enough to counteract that.
Knutsson does like these really textbook serves, you know, like for just like he just curves it in one direction.
So
it looks really fancy, you know, and like smooth, but really it's just quite predictable.
Yeah.
We've got the team stats up now, so you can see everything going head to head. I guess the biggest difference that stands out on anyone's stats is just Zebo over Flip, really. Flip and Flippy, just much bigger everything. If you guys can see that too.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at that at the moment, and I think it's also indicative of the way that these teams play. But it's the soldiers on LBC that are dominating the stats, and Exxon actually seems to have better stats than Rib, which is something that was picked up in Gentleman John's article before, and I feel like Rib actually has been one of the best players this season on Demoman, and I feel like the stats have really not quite shown that as well. But we'll see at the end of this whether or not he lives up to the hype or the stats.
Well, he puts himself like sort of in the line of danger for his team quite a lot. You know, he'll quite often be the person opening that door up. You know, taking the first step, going forward, making the space, pumping some damage out, and allowing Zebo and Zappis, and particularly Herpy, just to get the cleanup stuff.
Yep.
The only danger, obviously, playing against like a team like LBC with Flippy on Sniper, if your demo's the first one in, he's the most likely one to get headshot, and losing your demo early on in the fight could just sort of just snowball into the whole team collapsing.
Yeah, Rib's play, it really suits like kind of the style of TF2 BK are doing. I don't think they're doing it just because of Rib, but I think he fits it really nicely. Like his damage, especially on mid fights, like it comes in clusters. Like he will play forward, he'll do a lot of damage, and maybe he'll be the first person to die. But generally, if he is the first person to die, he's kind of done enough damage that BK can win the fight fast. So it's not like you get some demos like, I don't know, like players like Warhair, yeah, they'll do a lot of damage over a longer space of time. So like their stats are naturally going up because of it. But the difference in performance is maybe not as much as the stats suggest, just because they're playing further back, getting more heals, and staying in the fight for a longer time. And the fights in general take longer. And it's not to say the game is slower, because in fact the DPM will actually probably be higher because of this, because you're doing damage, it's being healed up, you're doing more damage, it's being healed up. Whereas Rib is more like a cluster player, like he'll come in and do like a cluster of damage and maybe die fast, or maybe have to fall back and be out of the fight for a long time. But like, it's just a difference in playstyle basically, and I feel the stats don't really...
fair reflection.
Yeah, they don't really account for this, because it's not necessarily about how much damage you're doing over a course of a game, it's about how much damage you're doing in like a particular space of time, because there can be a minute of stalemate after that because your team won the fight, or there can be like a prolonged fight which then leads into another fight on 2 because both medics live and this sort of thing. But BK are just so really like, they take these fights really fast on mids. They don't necessarily always go aggro, but the fights they do take are really fast fights, so they generally tend to be over quite quickly. So a demo can do 500 damage in the fight, and it's enough to kind of seal them the win, whereas in a slower fight he can do 1,000 damage and it's not enough, if you know what I mean.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see if Herpy can stack up in the same way, because obviously there's no question of Zebaside's ability in the sort of scout v scout fights, and that will probably inevitably develop at the end of sort of the initial bombs and everything. But compared to, say, any combination really of Flippy, Flip and Tech, he's a bit of a underdog, I'd say, just in that scout cleanup and on Viaduct. That's going to be crucial, who wins those sort of scout one-on-ones or scout fights.
Is this Herpy?
Yes, Herpy.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's a strange player, isn't he? Like you kind of see a different Herpy depending on, I don't know, like he's a very sensitive player, shall I say. If he gets like he loses his head based on like weird things, like, you know, his Like I remember at LAN, he was constantly changing his sensitivity and all this kind of like amateur mistakes people make when they first go to a big LAN, and they change everything, and then they spend after every map changing their sensitivity, and he can let this stuff get to his head, and then it really impacts his performance. But if he can keep a clean head and just play his game and not like worry too much, I think he's on the same level. Like he can play on the same level, but like he's his own worst enemy.
Yeah, just on kind of a sort of connected note, because obviously I can't remember, Herpes never been in sort of a team, I guess, like in a grand final, really, like Premiership grand final. And obviously neither has AMS compared to like the French players. The whole French lineup has a lot more experience to that end. Yes?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if it actually comes into play, or, you know, it's not maybe as much of a big deal when it's online, because you're still just at home at your computer in your comfort zone. But if things start going wrong, I don't know, like if, say, LBC have a couple of strong first mids, Flippy's really dominant, I'm not sure if BK maybe will just lose their heads a bit. So, you know, try too hard. Like, AMS has a tendency sometimes to try too hard to get his bombs to work, and just sort of overcommit unnecessarily, and maybe even the same of Zappis, and if that starts happening, it's just going to leave Rib, Zebasai all at sea. Just completely outnumbered.
I don't want to, like, commit too hard to this statement, but like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I don't have, like, you know, the history, but in my mind, I always consider this group of French players to be, like, world-class chokers. Like, this season, the game that sticks out is their match against Maincourt. Like, I feel like it was a disaster from their point of view that they didn't take more than 3 points. Because, I mean, they were up on Gully Wash by 3 rounds or so, and they threw it away in the space of 5 minutes and then got absolutely whumped on the Golden Cap. And I felt like from their POV, like, that has to be nothing short of a tragedy. And like, I wasn't surprised when I saw it. Like, I don't have the numbers, I don't have the facts, but I remember not being at all surprised when I saw it, and I must have got that impression for one reason or another. So even though they are more experienced, I mean, we can see how it can go. I feel like it can go either way for them. Their experience can show, or their experience of choking is just going to help them choke.
Okay, well, I think we're going to go live pretty soon, because we have 12 people on less server. Do you want to throw out some predictions before we get into the thick of it? Let's just do first map, just Viaduct right here, right now, score lines.
I'll go 3-2 French.
Sideshow?
Yeah, I think I've got to go 3-2 or possibly even 3-1 to LBC. I think Flippy is just going to go absolutely wild, and they're not really going to be able to counter that. But also, the server is going to be changed. We're not going to be going live anytime soon, unfortunately. T-Mac is complaining in the chat that his ping has spiked up to 30.
Ouch.
I have no idea what he's talking about. Oh no, sorry. He said he had 30, it's now 50. So,
wow.
Completely unacceptable, CX. I'm sure you'll agree. 50
Is 50
ping.
a bigger number in French than English?
The French ping is, to be fair, like Flippy's is sitting on, at least scoreboard ping, is sitting on 80, which isn't really that good. I mean, 80 ping, real ping isn't so bad, but 80 on scoreboard, that's like, well, 105 in console, which is actually reasonably high. So I can kind of see why, for a game of this importance, they would kick up a little bit of a fuss. It makes me sad because I sat through 150 ping for the warm-up so that BK could play on the server they were going to use for the match, but that's fine, guys. That's fine.
Chat is outraged by the complaint about 50 ping.
To be fair, I think Flippy has now started downloading a file because it's gone up to 120. So just so that he can definitely get that move. But no, he does have a bit of ping trouble here, so we may be seeing a server swap.
Is it too much to ask for Flippy to play the grand final and download his favourite shows at the same time?
So while we've got a little bit of time where we're undecided whether we're going to be going to a map or whether we're going to begin or something, I just want to talk about some giveaways that are happening as well. This is courtesy of whitelist.tf and tf2pickup.net, and we have some professional killstreak kits, escape plans, syringe gun, and other little goodies, I believe. And that is predicting the damage, the overall damage done by the winning team on Granary. So not this map, is the map after this one on CP Granary. You have to predict the total damage that's going to be shown in the logs by the winning team, and the person who is nearest will win that competition. If you want to enter or then post a comment on the Team Fortress TV thread about this event. So teamfortress.tv, you can find the event on the left hand side, pop it in there and you'll be golden. So that is not this map though, that is the next map.
So I'm sending a link to you if you can paste it to chat, please.
Can I ask a question? Do we have access to team comms today?
We do as well. We have access to the Knutsson Rollerbladers team comms. We don't have access to LBC comms because they all speak French.
Wait, but don't they speak Swedish, or do they speak English?
Yeah, Zappis had to learn Swedish.
Oh right,
he's Finnish. Yeah. So no, it's kind of a Scandinavian team rather than a Swedish. I think there's 4 Swedish players and 2 Finnish players. I think, is that right? Or is it 3-3 split? Either way, they don't all speak one common language, unlike LBCs.
I think, to be fair, I think Zappis has bits and pieces of Swedish, but like not enough for it to be worth not speaking English and say, "Oh, I'm also good at English." I mean, any Zeboside team that has another Swede in it means they have a whisper bind and they're laughing and giggling Swedish jokes all the way through the game anyway, so they'll be more than content to comm in English. But yeah, that's very good news. I really hope BK win, just for the reason alone that we'll have 2 sets of team comms in the grand final.
I don't think we will have 2 sets of team comms in the grand final. Unfortunately, Ubersexuals not playing fair. They don't fancy using their team comms. So
why do you think that is?
They don't fancy it.
They're just not fans. I don't know.
I
asked Ips and he just said no. So I didn't push it any further.
I think maybe
he has
had a
refused
bad
all season though.
experience. I seem to recall them having a bad experience once with Ips when we did team comms or something like this. So it might be because of that, or it might be because they're predicting some
anger,
and yeah. But we'll come on to Ubersexuals, I guess, later on.
Yeah, we'll unleash that can of worms when we get to it. So of course the winner of this best of 3 is going to be going on to face them in the grand final. But for now, we're just sticking to our semi-final, I guess you could call this. So
I think so.
Literally is what it's called, so it's probably a safe bet to go ahead with that, I'd say.
I'll call it a semi-final then.
Thank you, Sideshow, for naming this previously unnamed, unheard of concept of the game before the final.
Oh, we could call it like a pre-final final or a pre-playoff.
I think your first one was your best attempt. I think we should leave it at that.
I'll stick with semi-final then.
Solid choice. T-Max warming up with a black box. Do you think that's a thing? Just as I'm flicking around here. Do you think that's of any relevance?
Yeah, it could be, definitely.
I can't remember him playing with it previously in any other sort of maps, 5CP or Viaduct. But I don't know if, obviously, I think the teams have been playing quite hard recently. So I don't know if they've worked something out new or T-Max just found something he prefers.
Well, if T-Max is going to be playing on the flank kind of on his own with 2 pocket scouts defending his sniper, then I think the black box is a fairly decent idea. I mean, just the other roamer that comes to mind when I think of black box on Viaduct is Shadowburn. He likes to play with that. He does it fairly effectively, bits his team a little bit, but still manages to pull out some impressive plays with the black box. So I think it can work pretty well on Viaduct when you're kind of a little bit more alone on the flank, perhaps, and you have to cover an area. It definitely promotes a little more passive or solid roaming play rather than going forward, but I don't think they really need to be going forward with the
sniper,
kind of
it should all fit together.
Yeah, they're kind of sitting back, making room for Flippy. T-Max going to be locking down the flank, making sure people don't come behind and kill Flippy, while the 2 scouts are going to be trying to deny Zappis or anybody else who's going aggressive, and just making a lot of room for Flippy and Exxon to go huge and then pick up the frags afterwards. So I think